We are tuned in live with Stoner Njuguna and the Nobility House team watching from Gesha. That's Jesse Kimotho, who's watching from Gesha again. And they're tuning in with Stoner Njuguna. Pass our regards to my producer, Ngure, and Mr. Maish. Maish umesalimiwa hapo, and the rest of the crew. Shout out also to the rest of the crew. Munanibamba sana. We are keeping it locked. Shouting out to Karen Blessing and also to Juan Morin. So those are statements from Jessica Kimotho, who's been tuning into Biashara Tuesday. Thank you very much. Welcome back to the show. We are now heading towards the newspaper review section. We have the Business Daily, the Daily Nation, and the Standard, which are also, this is a segment that Jessica Kimotho has been on before. So if you can send us your feedback, mzee hapo, your comment on what we are going to discuss here will be very valued. Ecclesiastes 1 chapter 9, and I'm sure you're going to love this, Jesse, me quoting from the Bible. What was will be again. What has been done will be done again, and there's nothing new under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1:9. What was will be again. What has been done will be done again, and there is nothing new under the sun. That's speaking on the state of leadership and governance in the Republic, and it's from the pull-out opinion piece here on the Business Daily by Frederick Ogola. He's saying that beyond the Finance Act, the cost of living has risen exponentially, so much so that the opposition has taken advantage of it. We're going to take a look at exactly how it is he feels the opposition has taken advantage of it, but also if Joseph Kees, who's joining me on this show, shares the same sentiments. There, a priority is the new taxes, which have pushed cars beyond the reach of more Kenyans. Actual car taxes have jumped 14.69% on average. Taxes are outpacing the 10% import duty. And there on the left is squeezed a story on Safaricom's new limit, 500,000 from 300,000, which was the limit before. Wakenya wanasema hata iwasaidi, Wakenya fulani, some of the comments I'll be reading here, saying hata hiyo limit ya 300,000, which was there before, hata hakuwahi hit. Now there's a new one, ya 500,000. So you can have as much as 500,000 in your account in a day, and 150,000 per transaction is the limit per one transaction. So you can't send more than 150K, and you can't have more than 500K, half a mil in your bank, in your M-Pesa account. That's a warning actually to banks, yeah, because now people can use M-Pesa's platform as a banking platform more, which is a more accessible, more transactions can be done there. I'm curious to see how banks react to this, given that CBK is seeking regulation of M-Pesa as a bank. So normal banking regulations will be applied to all the transactions or to all the operations of M-Pesa. That's what is there on the Business Daily. On the Daily Nation, there's a jobs scandal which is hitting the government. Two tribes are getting nearly 60% of KRA's slots. Members of Parliament are furious that KRA hired 788 out of 1,400 KRA assistants were only from two communities. There's more from an audit report which is now revealing how state agencies are violating the law by employing more staff, which is adding to that wage bill burden that the country is facing. If you add that to the looting of public funds, true salaries for ghost workers, and Anti-Corruption Commission here report is showing that counties without set staff ceilings are on a hiring spree as well. So there are more hiring which are happening in these devolved units. There's MPs who are furious because there are only two tribes which are getting majority of the slots, and the public wage bill is crossing the 1 trillion mark as of last June, eating into nearly half of the nation's revenue, and the crisis will worsen due to theft, corruption, and bad hiring practices. Yani, half of the money of the revenue that KRA is collecting is being used towards wage bills, kulipa salaries za ghost workers na inflated salaries. That's what the job scandal story is there on the Daily Nation. And I'll allow my colleague here from KUTV, Joseph Kees, to introduce himself, but starting with what is on the headline of the Standard, and then I'll allow him to give a brief introduction before we get into the review. What do we have there, Kees?
Right, Richard, first of all, let me say thank you so much for having me today. It is really great being on Biashara Tuesday for the very first time.
Glad to have you, man.
Thank you so much. And shout out as well to our producer, Mr. Ryan, for having me here today. Yeah, it is great being here. There is a devolution, of course, the moment of truth for Kenyans. The national and county leadership are converging in Eldoret to take stock of 10 years of devolved governments. And, of course, it has been 10 years since devolution came into place, of course, following the promulgation of the new constitution in the year 2010. And of course, there are successes, failures, opportunities, and big lessons.
Hits and misses.
Yeah, of course, associated with devolution. So we'll be having that conference, of course, in Eldoret. Yeah,
in Uasin Gishu County.
Yeah,
we're going to take a look at those hits and misses with you in a short while, Kees. I'm just going to allow you first to introduce yourself to people who are seeing you on my show for the first time. I said you're a colleague here, but do the rightful introduction as you wish.
All right. So my name is Joseph Kees. I am a journalist here at KUTV. I am a news producer. I also anchor news on Wednesday, 9 p.m. primetime news.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they check out Wednesday, 9 p.m., you'll see a man like Joseph Kees there delivering you the happenings across the country and beyond our borders. Kees, I don't know what's the most exciting headline for you. If it's the Standard that you're holding, we can start with it, or the job scandal on the Daily Nation, or the new taxes of the Business Daily. Which one do you fancy this morning? As a producer, as a news producer yourself, I'm sure you've judged the kind of work the editor has done. So, which one which editor will you retain in the newsroom here on these headlines?
All right. There's a lot happening in the country, and of course we have the devolution that I've just spoken about. Of course, taking stock of devolution for the last 10 years. I think that must be, a great thing to talk about. Yeah, because, it concerns every Kenyan. Devolution, as it really worked. What are the hits and misses, as you said earlier on.
Right.
And of course, there is the second round of the bipartisan talks, which was kick-started yesterday. Of course, we are waiting to see, will it really work? Is it the remedy? I mean, is it really the solution to, the differences between the opposition and the government? Is it really going to work? That is what every Kenyan is anxious to see. So,
President William Ruto is also expected to join that conference today with his deputy, who will close it on Friday. And he had a busy day yesterday, according to a report here on the Daily Nation. He had a busy day yesterday working from Eldoret, where he already is after flying in from Uganda, meeting several leaders, sessions on, ahead of this devolution conference, to take a look at what kind of service has been delivered across the county. There are three things I have to note, and one is there's been a constant friction. There's been constant friction between the national government and the county governments when it comes to revenue allocation. We've seen the delaying of salaries. We've seen, some complaints saying, County X is not receiving what it should be receiving as compared to County X or County Y, in terms of maybe geographical position, unique challenges during the cases of famine and drought, which was affecting other counties differently from how it was affecting others. When we move from that, county revenue allocation, we have other dockets which were devolved from health to agriculture and others in between. So we have to take stock as well of, what has been going on there. We've seen complaints from doctors. There's been a threat of doctor strikes in Embu, Meru, medical interns not being paid here and there. But not just the ills. Of course, there are good things that we can get to point out. The agriculture sector will also devolved, and we have to take a look. Are we anticipating a bumper harvest or not? And at the moment, we have a couple of issues, which are going to be tabled here in this devolution conference. The question that will be the priority of all of them is, have we done well with the devolution, or have we not? Having covered a couple of these stories and taking a stock, of course, of all the various issues. First of all, is devolution a hit or is it a miss?
Okay, I would say both. Devolution, since it came into place, I must say that it has worked to some extent. of course, before the promulgation of the Constitution in 2010, the county government, the national government had all these tasks. So, it was quite burdensome, which is actually the reason why, those who came up with this constitution really saw the need to, devolve some of these functions, and, to bring in place the county governments, to assist the national government, of course, to, make sure that services are distributed to all parts of the country.
Right.
So I would say that devolution has worked to some extent. Of course, we have seen infrastructure has, been developed, the construction of roads, and of course, it has worked to some extent, really. And but we have also seen some, misses associated with it. Of course, we've seen doctors saying, the salaries are not being paid in time. Of course, health is one of the devolved functions. Salaries have not been paid on time. Why don't we take it back to, the national government, such that we get salaries directly from the national government, because of the delays that have been there since this function was devolved. So we have seen several misses as well. So it has worked to some extent.
Even when it comes to leadership, we take a look at counties like Kiambu County. In the last time, there was a time, it's a long period without a governor, where we could do without a deputy governor. You come to Nairobi County, we had a case where, sometimes you don't have a governor for a long time, sometimes you don't have a deputy governor, and you can survive for a year plus or some more. You go over to Siaya County, there's been friction between the deputy governor and the governor who took steps to, bring a motion over to the Senate for impeachment. When you take a look at leadership, when we speak about services, devolving of functions, it also takes a stock on leadership, the kind of leadership that's available there in the county. Is there confidence that we have sort of mini presidents and mini governments which are actually doing governance in the path or in the guidelines that devolution was supposed to, or devolution had envisioned?
Of course, there is an issue you've spoken about, the friction between, governors and their bosses. I mean the governors and their, the deputies. These issues have been there, and to some extent, it has affected the, the way their delivery of services. I remember it started with, Nairobi County government. During the leadership of the former governor. Yeah, that is when it started, and we've also seen the rivalry, the recent one in the Siaya County government between, Governor Orengo and his deputy Odwal. Well, I would say that this came into place since, the devolution came into place, and to some extent it has affected the delivery of services, but there is a lot to be done.
Right. Here in agriculture in 2022, saying that the top three exports from Kenya were tea, horticulture and coffee, earning the country 353 billion. This was a 44% increase from 2015. So this is how the devolution of agriculture has enabled the empowerment of farmers, the distribution of resources, and the access to market. While Kenya is not exporting as much in terms of other farm produce, there's been more in others like avocado and horticulture and coffee. So it has made horticulture and fruit to be one of the fastest growing, doubling capacity every single 5 years. So there are those which are working like agriculture and health there. The question is, should some of these functions be taken back to the national government, given that maybe half of it is effective and half isn't? Is there a need to also look back at the devolution, as we always do with the constitution, amend laws here and there? Should we take a look and also change? Maybe there's something that the national government has been struggling with. We switch it back to the counties and switch back the rest to the national government, or should we just steady on, wait to see the fruits finally maybe sometime in the future?
Well, the constitution is still undergoing amendment. When it was promulgated in 2010, that was not the final copy, still undergoing amendment. But on the issue of agriculture, for instance, I would say, I think it is really working, because take a look, for instance, at the distribution of fertilizers by the government, the subsidized fertilizers. The county governments have been, very imperative in as much as, making this function easy. And you had the president, okay, allow me just to, stick a little bit to matters of fertilizers. The president, not long ago, while addressing, the press in state, I would say that, the government, is working, the national government is cooperating with the county governments to establish, the distribution centers for fertilizers, for instance, and, to ensure that it reaches farmers easily, you see.
Right.
So I think, in as much as, such a role, for instance, a function, like the distribution of fertilizers is concerned, I think, county governments are really, very important, and, as far as ensuring that, ensuring timely distribution of fertilizers or any other subsidized, products to farmers, are delivered on time. Yeah, that is just an example to tell you that county governments are really, important in that sector, in the sector of agriculture. Yeah, so for agriculture, to some extent, I would say, devolution is working.
Service delivery there, job creation has happened, enhanced local governance as well. We have now leadership closer to the people, and resource allocation, as you have mentioned there. When it comes to public participation, has there been improved, from your outlook as well, has there been improved access to the government from the Mwananchi? Now that we have an MCA right at the ground, is there a feeling that, you're now getting to the leadership easier than before, or how does that citizen engagement and participation look like at this point compared to 10 years ago from your angle?
Well, it is also important to remember that, we had municipal, kind of leadership before the constitution came into place. We had councillors, if you remember.
Yes.
I don't think really there is a difference between councillors
and
the current MCAs. So I would say to some extent, okay, there is a difference, of course, because we have the county governments. I think municipalities, municipal leaderships, back then were not as effective as the, county governments. The county government is literally the national government, being brought closer.
Okay.
So I would say that it has really increased, it has really, brought the services closer, and it has, increased the interaction between the citizen and the government.
Right.
Yeah.
Citizen participation there. We'll get to see if that's what the governors are agreeing with when they finish this conference on Friday, where Ruto and DP Gachagua are going to be addressing a couple of issues, but also taking stock of what has happened in 10 years. And this is just 1 year after the election results of the electioneering period of 2022, and now it's been 1 year, all around 1 year since the Kenya Kwanza government came into power, and now we're back to Bomas. There are talks, and which is a story also which is there on the Daily Nation and the Standard, the bipartisan talks between the government and the opposition technical teams, which have now been tasked to draw up dialogue teams' agenda. The four-man team on both sides, led by Azimio's side by Kalonzo Musyoka, who's the former vice president, and also Kimani Ichung'wah, the majority leader, National Assembly. At this point, there's disagreement over the talks and over the agenda to be put on the table. We saw the same thing during the first round. I think we have almost forgotten there was a first round of bipartisan talks earlier in the year, in around May, June, which was suspended. We went back to the streets, and now we're back for another round of these talks, and they still cannot agree on the agenda. Is there any hopes of this being now the successful round of this bipartisan talks, Kees?
Well, let me start by saying that we witnessed the handshake in the former government between the opposition, of course, and the government side. I don't think really it was as complicated as it is how now. It is right now. Remember, we had the first round of the bipartisan talks, which didn't end well. I mean, it wasn't. I don't really think it was successful. Yeah. So this is just the second round. I mean, how are things going to change really? We've seen this kind of maybe a Kenyan was not expecting this thing to be delayed. Maybe Kenyans were thinking these talks are going to happen in just a day or two, and the both sides agree. But now we see the establishment of of course the technical teams, and you see these talks again happen a day a week. They started on Wednesday. It is Monday again this week. Monday next week. There's sort of a delay.
But there's an ultimatum from Raila saying, if we get to the end of August and there's no deliberations, we are taking other means of trying to address this issue. Is this a game being played in your opinion? As you mentioned there, it's just one talk a week, and at the same time, I'm taking a look at a cartoon here by Dula, which is showing Senator Coons, who is currently who's been in the country, meeting a couple of leaders here and there. And as you can see there on the screen, they're saying, quick, we have to find an alternative term for handshake, which is now bipartisan talks, I guess, and then probably another name will come up. This having one bipartisan talk meeting once a week, is this a play you feel from one side to the other? Is there another game underneath?
Well, first of all, you need to remember that on Wednesday, there was a kind of a coincidence. The two sides were meeting, for the inaugural, interaction, to begin the talks, to lay, to prepare stage for the talks. And the president, during the same day, he said that, of course, the Azimio leader, engaged in he had an agreement with the Moi government. He had an agreement with the Kibaki government. And of course he had a handshake with the Uhuru government. I mean, there's a term he used, but when you look at Hustler, do you think it's going to happen really? So you see, that is a sign from the president that he's not going to, he's not ready to take any handshake thing. Yeah, he's not willing to, really welcome the opposition leader to the government. Yeah, so you see.
But what do we make then of the setting up of the office of the opposition, office of the leader of the opposition, the creation of the office of the leader of the opposition? Isn't that just, it could be a handshake, but behind our backs, just a hidden handshake. When you take a look at the setting up of the office of the leader of the opposition, which hasn't been there, but it is provided by the constitution. Is this a hidden handshake? Just by another term, as that cartoon has called it out.
Well, I think it is also important to, remember that the opposition leader, that is, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, he also had this issue of is demanding for the auditing of the 2022 August, presidential elections. And, is really prioritizing this matter. And of course, the cost of living. So I don't think really the establishment of the office of the opposition leader really,
points towards anything like a handshake.
Yeah, like, even when he's addressing the crowds out there, he seems not very interested in that matter. He kind of, doesn't see any value, from it. Yeah, so he's very interested, from the outlook, he's very interested in the auditing of the 2022 presidential elections. I mean, he has run 5 times, losing each and every time. and losing to people who were once his subordinates. I mean, just
the president was in ODM.
Put yourself in his shoes, and just try to figure out how it would be.
Right. Some of those, let me go through that agenda, and then I get to hear from you as well. If then does that mean there are hidden agendas behind this government, between President Ruto and Raila, first of all, but also his support team, the team that is being set up. They might be looking for the crumbs that fall and see what they can pick as a result there. But the agenda, Kenya Kwanza has listed the reconstitution of the IEBC, the implementation of the 2/3 gender rule, entrenchment of the constitution, the Constituency Development Fund in the Constitution, the creation of the office of the Leader of the Opposition, and the entrenchment of the office of the Cabinet Secretary into the Constitution. We say here on this show a couple of times before, the illegal office or the illegitimate office of the Cabinet Secretary, of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, but they need this also entrenched in the Constitution. On the other hand, Azimio wants the high cost of living, the audit of the 2022 presidential election results, and an end to the interference with political parties and outstanding constitutional issues on governance, and the delimitation of boundaries added to this list of agendas. But there is a general disagreement. What can we expect at the end of August if there's no agreement on this agenda? What can we expect as you see it, Joseph Kees?
Well, I think it is okay. This is a matter of wait and see, first of all, because there is really that there are really differences in this whole thing. See a contradiction. I mean, differences in what each side is demanding for, and I think it is also important to note at this point that what Kenya Kwanza is bringing on the table is actually a proposal that was sent to the National Assembly by President William Ruto. The entrenchment of the the NGAF fund into the Constitution. I mean, and also the establishment of the office of the opposition leader. You see, these are things that really don't look like they're making sense to the other side. And whatever this other side is bringing, the other side doesn't want to hear anything of it. So what we should expect, first of all, it's important to remember that the opposition leader, of course, said if we will not have reached and if we will not have had an agreement by the end of this month, we're going to call for a strike in terms of staying in the house and
boycotting services,
boycotting the economic services. Yeah, so
is that something that can happen? Is it possible that to be an option? Technically, an economic hunger strike. Is that an option that Kenyans have, or is it just a privilege coming out of Raila's camp?
Well, I think it is important also to note that people say, Raila has very, very, loyal followers who always, follow what he says. But I think, at this point in time, it is very impossible because, of course, there is, the high cost of living that, Kenyans may not really be able to bear with if they follow that advice, staying in the house and, boycotting services. I think it may not work. Remember also that there was an issue by the Azimio la Umoja wa Kenya coalition. They established a website, remember, to collect signatures.
Signatures, right. How did that go? How did that go?
We haven't heard of it in a while.
Okay.
So you see, even, boycotting of services
might not
follow the same, may also not be effective just the same way the signature collection has not been, of course, successful.
So when you look at it, Kees, what kind of options does the opposition have at this point? If in my outlook, President William Ruto could play this out for 5 years, yeah? So we do bipartisan talks for 2 months, go for a break, do mandamano here, moja mbili tatu, come back, have talks. We do this and repeat for 4 years, and then the 4th year we just do our campaigns and go out. If that would be the approach, because it's been a year and so far there's nothing fruitful that has fallen on the camps of Azimio side. If anything, they've been losing a lot of their following, they've been losing a lot of their members. If you can see, one of the issues that they have highlighted here is that they want to end the interference of their own political parties, because the government or the Kenya Kwanza team is poaching, essentially the leaders or members of parliament from the side of the opposition, and it's now lacking in strength. The continued lacking of strength, if it plays out, what kind of options at this point does Raila have? We've seen threats, tutakupeleka ICC, tutaandamana, economic sabotage. Could he run out of at the end of the road of on how to approach William Ruto?
First of all, before I talk about that, the coming of the ICC prosecutor, that is Karim Khan, into the country came at a time when both sides are struggling, with this whole bipartisan thing, trying to, a lot of differences between the two sides. You see, they were talking about ICC, and coincidentally, the government brings in, the ICC prosecutor into the country. So, what really could have led to this? That is, questions that Kenyans are asking themselves. Is it because the government is maybe trying to show the opposition that this may not really be possible?
Yeah, because they're in good terms with the ICC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it really a way of trying to communicate to the opposition and show them that this may not be possible? But I would say that it is important, first of all, for us to, of course, wait for the talks to end and see if both sides really will have an agreement. Remember, they spoke last week. I remember I covered that story. And, both leaders, the leaders of both sides, Kimani Ichung'wah, the majority leader in the National Assembly, and Kalonzo Musyoka, the Wiper leader, they said they have good faith if the technical teams could just agree on matters to be discussed, then I think the progress will be good. So I think it is imperative at this moment in time for Kenyans to just wait for, what really is going to happen. And of course, let us also wait and see, maybe the anticipated Chris Coon's impact.
Right, Dennis Kimani is tuned in, saying public participation, 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. Is that the case? Do you feel like there's a 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, or there is a shadow government that is running these operations? When you, just before we close up this handshake talks, they're calling them bipartisan talks, but when you see the interactions William Ruto has had with Raila Odinga so far, a closed door meeting with the former Nigerian president Obasanjo, which happened in the coastal region, with no one else, no member of parliament, nothing, no one in between, just the three of them in a room for a couple of minutes. Whatever they spoke about, they did speak about there. We saw William Ruto going out to, Samia Suluhu, president of the Republic of Tanzania, and tweeting out Raila Odinga saying, whenever you want us to talk, mahali nataka tupatane at whatever time, ndugu yangu tutapatana, right? And as you said there, we saw Khan coming into the country. We are seeing Senator Kuhn from the United States as well around. What is the agenda of these talks? I know they've listed a couple of these issues. Is this a conversation on Raila Odinga and William Ruto, or is it a conversation of the people? 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. President Uhuru Kenyatta was meeting the president of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, a few days ago, and a few days later, right? Former president, right? Uhuru Kenyatta, and meeting the president of Uganda, Museveni, and now President William Ruto is just from a sit down with the same man a few days later. Doesn't this point out something sinister? Is there something hidden? Is there a hidden agenda? And we're just waiting on the cost of living, but in the end, it's just the same old handshake, as I've been insisting from when we were starting this discussion.
Well, I would say that several coincidences in this whole thing.
Are they coincidences?
One thing happening, and of course, something that really points to the same thing, to the same result happening. Like you've said, the visit to the Ugandan president. So this is really a matter of wait and see. But it is also important to remember that these are people who worked together before. Of course, Raila has worked with Ruto before. And Uhuru also has worked with Raila, before. So I think coming to an agreement may not really be very difficult for these leaders. But it is important to look at how the ordinary mwananchi is benefiting from visiting, or is losing from visiting. And I would say that for any leader to establish, to be able to achieve something, I think they try and please the ordinary citizen. That is why for Raila to maybe achieve anything, he has to lure the citizens into this whole thing. For Ruto, the same thing. You've seen the president go to the central region, to launch projects, and also to actually address a lot of matters. It was kind of a campaign, actually.
It's a means to another end, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they use the use of the citizens, the ordinary citizens. The ordinary citizens are a very important tool, for these leaders. And it does not just happen in Kenya. It actually happens in all places across the world.
Right. Okay. Not so much of coincidences, but more of political ploy there. Let's play a game. As they are playing the political game on that other end, let's do one here on the show as we come back and then wrap up on some other stories we might be focusing on. I'm sure you're very familiar with this part of the show, right? You've seen this before.
Well, I've seen it before.
Yeah.
And I've seen you've been winning in every occasion.
Yeah.
But today I'm going to defeat you. Actually, don't allow Kenya to defeat me today. I mean,
it's not a matter of who's allowing what. It's just what it is. Yeah. It is what it is. Let's see. If you're at home, there are a few questions here that we get to answer, and then jibu, mark against yourself. We see how well versed you are in general knowledge around you and around Africa and around Kenya. Let's go. The first question: what does ECOWAS stand for? Huyu jamaa alishaanza kuandika before hata nianze.
Mimi siandiki hizo vitu. I'm writing something else.
Andika admission number na ECOWAS. Let's go. Second question: what is the name of the largest supermarket chain in Kenya? We've had this question before. Oh man. Which body in Kenya regulates petroleum, electricity, and renewable energy sector? Which is the largest bank in Kenya by assets? Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. Okay, question number 5. What is the name of the largest brewery in Kenya? What company owns WhatsApp? Kees, unafuatilia? Unaandika bro. Which Kenyan company is the highest taxpayer? Sorry, pardon. I skipped there. I went ahead of time. The question before, I didn't answer then. Who owns WhatsApp? Okay, let's go. The next question there is, which Kenyan company is the highest taxpayer? And then we have another question here, which is the oldest bank in Kenya? The central bank. Oh man, oh man, oh man. What does the KHRC organization in Kenya stand for? Next question, who is Kenya's Chief of Defense Forces? What? Anaitwanga nani? I think that's it. Those are 10 questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, pens down bana. Wewe kijana. Zamishaisha bana. Let's go. Question number 1. Economic Community of West African States. All right. Second question, biggest chain, Naivas. What is the name of, the first one, ECOWAS. Are we showing it? Yeah, ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States. That's what you got there. Number 2, the name of the largest supermarket chain in Kenya, Naivas. So we both have Naivas. Right. Naivas, the largest chain, yeah? Naivas saves you money. That's what they say. Which body in Kenya regulates energy, petroleum, and renewable energy sources? That is EPRA, right? That is EPRA, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Maish, can you say that in a continuous statement? And then you can text us on KUTV. We'll just check it out and see. That is EPRA. We got it correct. Third question, which is the largest bank in Kenya? Fourth question, actually, which is the largest bank in Kenya by assets? And the answer is Equity Bank. Again, for the second time, I wrote KCB. Kees is going ahead. Hey, what is the name of the largest brewery in Kenya? EABL, East African Breweries Limited. Next question. Kees nitakupata tu mahali hapa. What company owns WhatsApp? Hapa ndo ninakupata. Meta. Yes, it's not Facebook. Facebook is owned by Meta too. Nimpata hapo. What is the Kenyan company? What Kenyan company is the highest taxpayer? Still Safaricom. Right. So Safaricom is. Question number 8, which is the oldest bank in Kenya? KCB. I wrote Family Bank. Kees, do I say ama niache?
Somewhat.
Yeah, ndo ameandika Central Bank actually. So it's the KCB, right? Number 9, KHRC stands for the Kenya Human Rights Commission. Yeah, we got it. What is this scrutinized sana? Nimepata. Who is Kenya's Chief of Defense Forces? This is the ndo ina decide nani anapata hii swali. Who is it? Oh man. It's called Ogola. Man, I should have written. General Ogola. MGH, EBS, CDF. Chief of Defense Forces, Ogola. Major General, Chief of Defense Forces, Ogola. Ellen nimepigwa. Ndo maana I am slow. That's why I'm slow to answer. Leo nimepigwa. Kesa amepata 8 out of 10. Kesa 7 yani. Oh man. I have a 7. It's not so bad. But this guy spends all his time in the newsroom, so I think that's what is happening here. For the first time, I found my match here on Biashara Tuesday. 8 out of 10 for Kees and 7 out of 10 for me. Your Chief of Defense Forces mstake kujua niliandika nini, so let's hide it. We'll get to it sometime later. Kees, we've played that. If you're at home also, please tell us what answers you got, or if there's something tricky for you, I'll have to interact nawe hapo. But finally, just to wrap it up, I know we've talked about bipartisan / handshake and also the devolution conference, which are the two major political conversations happening across the republic, but the cost of living as well. EPRA has maintained the fuel prices for August, right? And all the way to September, it's going to be the same at 194 per litre of petrol instead of 202. Earlier this year, President William Ruto was saying in May that, even before he came into power, that, subsidies are not part of his plan for economic empowerment. And they've scrapped that from the moment they came into power. In May, we saw the scrapping of all fuel subsidies. But there seems to be a turnaround, yeah? And now we have fuel subsidies, effectively. I don't know if it's fuel subsidies. From my end, I feel it's reprieve and, a way for EPRA to pay for its sins in July. We saw the EPRA General Director, Daniel Kipto, being called to the High Court to answer on why they were collecting taxes when the High Court had put a pause on the Finance Act. But now, a few days later, we are seeing, a return of the subsidies. So maybe or maybe not, and again, this is another coincidence. As you've said, there are several coincidences within this republic. We must be a republic of so many coincidences, right? So we are seeing this turnaround, yeah? And does this inform you of, a change of mind by William Ruto in his economic approach to how he's handling his maiden budget as well, and also the Finance Act, we just got approval from the High Court?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, let me say that fuel is very important, to every sector. Almost every sector depends on fuel. And you can actually see that the prices have been maintained. There's no much change. Mm. Yeah, there's no, the prices have not risen. Mm. They have not, reduced. Mm-hmm. The prices have been maintained for fuel,
right?
For diesel, petroleum, as well as
kerosene from now all the way to next month. Yes.
Yeah. So, but remember, we also have the 16% VAT. Mm-hmm. It is still there. Mm-hmm. So we are just waiting to see maybe what is the impact of this 16% VAT beginning, September 15th this year. Mm-hmm. But okay, of course, the price is being, remaining at that level. Mm-hmm. I can say it is really kind of a relief to Kenyans. Mm-hmm. Kenyans have been looking forward to, the hiking of fuel prices. Mm-hmm. But again, it is important to note that the cost of unga, the cost of sugar are still up there. Mm-hmm. So I think the government, has to come in and at least, maintain these prices instead of really having them hike. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it must be working to the advantage of, the citizen.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Finally, just to finish it up with the High Court, while still at the High Court has barred the cryptocurrency firm WorldCoin. So if you have a couple of WorldCoins yourself at home, this is information that you need to know about. A few days ago, there was a siege, or there's a seize of the property belonging to WorldCoin. Most of these are being the globe-looking equipment they use to scan your iris before they give you that WorldCoin token that you can get in the World app, effectively to trade between cryptocurrencies or to convert to cash. Now, this case escalated after popularity went online and offline. It was the most spoken about thing. Kingia kwa mtandao, it's WorldCoin. You go offline, people have WorldCoin. Now, Kenya High Court has barred WorldCoin from collecting data from, Kenyans, pending the determination of a petition that has been put there by the Office of the Data Protection Commission. They allowed WorldCoin to set up operation in Kenya initially, but now they are changing the tune, saying that, they didn't really disclose what exactly they'll be doing with this kind of private information, which is the iris that they're scanning of every Kenyan. And WorldCoin is only set up in Kenya, by the way, just for your information. This is an American-founded company that is only currently operating in Kenya. It has risen a lot of concern with the Office of the Data Protection Commission, which was set up in 2019. And one, I have to really commend that step forward that we took, creating of this Data Protection Commission has helped us against rogue lenders. Sijui kama unakumbuka some time back, calls from, these lenders, napigia relatives, nini, and the Data Protection Commission put a halt onto this through the CBK. And now they're saying that WorldCoin should keep off Kenyans' eyes. in this kind of economic situation, many have been lining up to receive as little or as much as they can for whatever kind of information this WorldCoin farm wants. And now they're saying, from the comments I see here, wakujia hata sauti zetu. Wakitaka hata sauti hata eribubu ambaye ako na pesa kuliko mwenye ana struggle within the economy. What do you make of this story, Kees, as we wrap up?
Well, I think it is important, first of all, to remember that the PS in the Ministry of the Interior Ministry, Interior and National Administration, that is Dr. Raymond Omolo, just sat down with some experts in the and he actually said that the Data Protection Act, I don't remember which act exactly it was, but it had something to do with this whole thing.
Yeah, the Data Protection Law of 2019.
Yeah.
Yes.
2019 or 2018?
It was a bill in 2018, then law in 2019.
Okay.
Yes.
So it is going to be, kind of amended, just in efforts to ensure that Kenyans are protected, from, this cybercrime, this whole thing. It is related, actually. And the action by those who have, gone to court to, to issue a petition against this, it is really a good step. It shows that, at the end of the day, the government is keen on protecting the privacy of Kenyans. But Kenyans are still asking, this company was in operation for quite some time.
Right.
Why,
since 2021.
Why the late interventions?
It's like a knee-jerk reaction from the government.
Yeah. So it is also a matter of wait and see. Is this thing really going to be banned from the country?
Okay.
Yeah, but of course, Kenyans have been a section of Kenyans have been desperate.
Are you among this section of Kenyans? Do you have a couple of WorldCoins? It's a free space. Do you happen to have a few of those?
Well, depending on the industry I work in, I would really not.
A good journalist does not reveal his sources. Yeah.
Okay. So I would say that we wait and see whether they will be allowed to continue with the operations or they are barred completely. But data protection is very important.
Right. Sure, data protection is very important, and we'll be having more of that conversation as the petition is heard or when the determination is done by the High Court. You can read about it in the Business Daily, where they've put it on page 4. Keep off Kenyans' eyes, the court is telling WorldCoin. Last word from you, Joseph Kees, is, again, watu wa kuone Primetime News, alafu you can read us here a quote from a cytogeneticist. A cytogeneticist. I'd love to know what that means. A cytogeneticist and winner of the 1983 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. So this is a Nobel Prize winner from 1983. We'll get that quote, but also remind people where they can get more of your work as you do it at KUTV.
Well, of course, we have a lot happening in the country. Let me begin with that. The second round of the bipartisan talks expected to resume on Monday next week. Kenyans are really anticipating to see is this second round really the solution to the difference that has been there between the opposition and the government. It is a matter of wait and see. We also wait, to see what really will come out of this devolution conference. Devolution has been there for 10 years. What is going to be addressed? What is the government going to prioritize? Remember this, by the way, Richard, comes at a time when, happens in a county where we saw this Finland
scholarship scandal.
Yeah, so coincidentally.
That's where...
The additional coincidence.
Too many coincidences, right?
Yeah, the devolution conference is happening in Eldoret. Uasin Gishu County. That had, of course, that issue, the Finland saga. We're waiting to see what really we will witness from, this devolution conference. Yeah, so
final quote.
That is it.
Right. Last word there.
Okay. Richard has just told me to read this Quote here by Barbara MC Clintock. If you know you are on the right track, if you have this inner knowledge, then nobody can turn you off, no matter what they say.
Let's get it again.
Well, if you know you are on the right track, if you have this inner knowledge, then nobody can turn you off, no matter what they say.
All right. That's from Joseph Kees. Thank you very much for joining us here on Biashara Tuesday. That was the newspaper review. You can get it later on YouTube. And I see also here a comment, again, Dennis Kimani, saying Office of the Prime Cabinet is an executive order and not a constitutional provision, and reminding you there'll be an Africa Climate Summit from the 4th to the 8th of September. We'll be giving you more information before September comes on how you can attend that climate summit. I'm finishing with a quote from my latest read, which is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. It was a military read, but very applicable to your day to day. So I'm going to read one of those from The Art of War that really struck with me. He says, Sun Tzu said, if you know the enemy and you know yourself, there's no need to fear the result of 100 battles. If you know the enemy, if you know yourself and you don't know the enemy, for every victory gained, there will be a defeat. But if you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. If you know the enemy and you know yourself, there's no need to fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself and you don't know the enemy, for every victory gained, there's going to be a defeat. If you know neither the enemy and do not know yourself, you will succumb in every single battle. Thank you for joining us here on Biashara Tuesday. From my whole crew, my producer and director, Ryan Bure, on the transmission desk is Frank Major Minor, and a lot of people behind the cameras and in the sound department that I can't really go through, but we're grateful that you can create time and watch what we have prepared for you here every single Monday and Tuesday. Meet me again next week on Tuesday on Biashara Tuesday. But before that, you get Current Blessing on Art and Culture Monday. Keep tweeting, keep talking to us at Richard_Kenya. Until next time, I'll see you around.